Boom! And it's only 9 more sleeps or thereabouts till Christmas, and only 2 more chances to speak to Siobhan Connor before Christmas. He's joining us, I hope, live Christmas morning. Meanwhile, he's with us right now with his fantastic Freeview film recommendations, one of the country's leading film critics and my mate. And blimey, Charlie, you're starting with a banger. You beat me to this one. I was quite keen to mention this one because it's, in my view, a modern thriller masterpiece. And you've got in there first, Van. Good morning, Van, and happy pre-Christmas, Christmas type greetings. There you go.
Oh, and a happy pre-Christmas to you as well, Mr. Ross.
Only 9 more sleeps. Are you sorted out? You ready for Crimbo?
As ready as I can be. I've got my handful of presents. I've done the charity gifts and things as well. I'm about tied off for Christmas now. I'm ready to just chill, open the wine and start watching my Die Hard.
I think nothing says Happy Christmas and I love you more than a half-warm pasty from a Wild Bean Cafe. Don't you think? I mean, I think that's romance summed up right there. Anyway, let's start with your first recommendation. I mentioned the word thriller. I mentioned this century. It's only about, 10, 11 years old now. Tell us what you selected to kick us off this morning.
This is, of course, Joe Wright's Hannah from 2011, starring Eric Bana and Saoirse Ronan. This is one of those movies that wasn't that original if you read comic books, because it was very specifically the story of X-23, Wolverine's sort of clone daughter. But it's done here for the screen as a more reality set thriller. It stars Saoirse Ronan as the ultimate weapon, a sort of child killer who has been raised in seclusion by her creator/surrogate father, Eric Bana, who they're forced to separate for the very first time when the people behind her creation start to close in on their location. There's a chance they can get their hands on her and set her to work doing their nefarious assassination deeds. But I say this is on Great Movies tonight at 10 to 11. It is an absolute corker. Joe Wright directs this so slickly, so coolly. It's got a banging soundtrack, not even a soundtrack, just a score, entire score by the Chemical Brothers.
Yes.
That really just kicks it up a notch, that propels it to a whole other level.
And Kate
cool.
Blanchett is fantastic. This is the kind of Ice Queen, head of evil intelligence, and there's a real fairy tale element to this, isn't it? It's partly Red Riding Hood, it's partly Snow White, partly even but a Cinderella stirred into this. But it's got that kind of dark Grimm's fairy tale feel to it. It's not really the jolly Disney fairy tale. It's a more kind of Bruce Willis fairy tale.
Oh, very much, a very hyper-violent fairy tale, and also it's very snowy as well. So it's kind of perfect for
European,
very European. It's very
isn't it?
Specifically the weather. Yeah, the weather we're having right now. This kind of fits rather perfectly.
Okay, so it is Hannah. It's on. When's it on? It's on Great Movies, I think, isn't it? You were saying. What time is it, Van?
Great Movies tonight at 10:50, 10 to 11. I've got a clip for you. This is Eric Bana and Saoirse Ronan. This is them sort of going their separate ways, making their plans for her survival as they separate.
If you've not seen this, you're in for a rare old treat.
Tell me again.
Where's Vigla?
Then.
Postcard.
Then.
What?
The address where we meet.
Wilhelm Grimm's house, Stephanstrasse 261 and 559, Berlin, Germany.
Yeah, what else?
Adapt or die.
Think on your feet.
Even when I'm sleeping. Papa.
Remember what I taught you, you'll be fine.
I'll see you there.
When I heard the cast for this film, I knew the comic book, obviously. When I heard the cast, I thought, oh, great, they're somehow going to morph Bruce Banner into it as well, because Eric Banner had been playing the whole course, scheduled to play that. Sadly, they didn't go down, well, probably just as well, been overcomplicated. Great movie, that is. Now, this next film, I'd be interested to know your verdicts before I play it. I'm sure you've seen it, because like me, you love and revere the Staith. Ray Winston's in this film, Mickey Rourke's in this film, 50 Cent's in this film, Michael Shannon's in this film, and Sam Riley's in this film. I mean, it's a great cast. It's a remake, though, but it's directed by the man who wrote and directed the original, a man called Jela Bubliani, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's a film called, in the American version, British version, 13. It scored terribly on Rotten Tomatoes, It got reviled by critics. It's not as good as the original, but I still quite enjoyed this one. I haven't been told people the set of it, but what did you make of this one? Is it unfair to compare it to the original? Because it's kind of Hollywooded and Stathamed up, but still a really great idea. The central concept is a real high concept action central line, I think, to the plot.
I think as far as remakes go, sort of that have been made by their original director, it's not a patch on, for instance, Michael Haneke's Funny Games remake. No. But I do think it's pretty decent. It sort of just got dumped unceremoniously out onto DVD, despite a pretty heavyweight cast that would have, I think, carried it decently in cinemas.
And the setup is very simple, but very complicated as the plot unfolds. Basically, Jason Statham happens across an invitation to a night of, dare one say, very dark entertainment, where people who are really in need of money are competing, playing a sort of Russian roulette game in a circle for the money. The last man standing will win a huge amount of money, clear his debts. The others will all be dead. And you don't point the gun at yourself. You point it at the person in front of you in the circle, and the person behind you points his gun at them. And the rich pay a fortune to bet on this and also to watch it and enjoy it in a grim way. And, of course, there's all kinds of shenanigans, crosses and double crosses along the way. Great cast, I mentioned. I mean, look at Ray Winston, 50 Cent, Michael Shannon, Mickey Rourke, Sam Riley, but above all, the mighty Staith, directed by the man who directed and wrote the original. It's on Great Action. It's on tonight, 9 o'clock. It's called 13. It's unlucky for some.
Please distribute 1 bullet to each player. Load your bullets into their cylinders.
I get back $3 million in 3 days.
You said 2.5.
Raise your weapons.
Place your bets, gentlemen.
600,000 on number 30.
Are you sure this is the right thing?
We don't have any other options.
Spin your cylinders.
How much money they paying you to watch my ass? I give you $3 million. You let me get out of here.
Blow both our brains out before we got out the front door. We got a better chance of surviving the ring.
Where you going? I think I should leave.
It's too late. You have to play now.
Cock your hammers.
If I make it back, I'm gonna make so much money, you're gonna love me again.
When the bulb lights up, you shoot.
And that's as simple as it's about 90 minutes long, doesn't hang around, doesn't waste time, and neither does out your next recommendation. Very timely scheduling from Channel 4, 9 o'clock tomorrow night. It's Knives Out, which may soon be known as the prequel to Glass Onion, that kind of whodunit with Daniel Craig as has he come out, the character he's playing? Is he now a gay character, or is he ambivalent, or is he simply a bit of a sexual conundrum? I'm not quite sure.
It's ambivalent in the movie, in Glass Onion, the movie itself, but Daniel Craig, in the press conference I actually attended at the London Film Festival, did just outright say, oh no, he's a gay character, he's totally gay. I won't spoil who his on-screen lover is, because it's a great cameo in the sequel. You can see that on Netflix from next Friday, incidentally. It's worth it just for that cameo. Both movies are terrific. The sequel is somehow even better. This thing got nominated for Best Original Screenplay in 2019. I championed it to win, and in the story I will never ever tire of telling, a completely brainless idiot told me on mic that the only reason I was championing it is because I liked it, only for a few days later Netflix to drop $500 million to make 2 sequels. Yes, $250 million apiece for 2 sequels. It is, of course, basically just an Agatha Christie style murder mystery starring Daniel Craig.
What a cast, an amazing cast. An amazing cast, though.
Yeah, of course. And of course, Michael Shannon from 13 turns up in this as one of the potential suspects, alongside Don Johnson, Ana de Armas, Jamie Lee Curtis. I think even Frank Oz turns up in this. It's a hell of a ride.
Christopher Plummer plays the victim, does he not? I mean, Mr. Sound of Music himself is in it, so it's a great lineup, this film.
Oh yes, it's one of Christopher Plummer's final performances. I say it centres around Benoit Blanc solving this case. As a friend of mine coined, he's the detective who solves it all with a southern drawl. His foghorn leghorn accent is absolutely incredible. I almost forgot Chris Evans being in this movie as well, of course. Yep. Bit of a scene stealer himself. Absolutely corking this film. It's hilarious, it's thrilling, it's suspenseful, it's really, really clever. If you've never seen Knives Out, check this out tomorrow night, 9 o'clock on Channel 4. If you have seen it, you'll probably want to see it again, because it's that good. And don't forget, $500 million for 2 sequels. So I wasn't entirely wrong, was I?
Brilliant stuff there. It's Knives Out. It's on Channel 4 tomorrow night, 9 p.m. What have you got for us on the clip front, Van?
I've got a clip for you of the family being gathered around to be read the last will and testament of their fallen patriarch. And of course, they've all got their own designs on who deserves what.
Fantastic film, and I'm looking forward to seeing the follow-up next. I think it drops Friday on Netflix, as Van was saying. Here we go. Knives Out, Channel 4, 9 o'clock tomorrow night.
Thank you all for getting together like this. It isn't legally necessary, but I thought because you're all in town and some of you are leaving soon.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to gently request that you all stay in town until the investigation is completed.
Well, he's gently requesting, but I'm going to have to make that an order. No one move until we figure this all out.
What? Can we ask why? Has something changed?
No.
No, it hasn't changed, or no, we can't ask?
Mr. Stevens, you may continue.
That is Daniel Craig. I mean, reminds me what a fine actor is, of course. That's Knives Out. That's tomorrow night till 9 o'clock on Channel 4. I've gone for One Man and His Dog, based on the brilliant Jack London novel set during the gold rush in the Klondike. I thought this was unfairly kind of overlooked at the time. It was a kind of pandemic release film.
Yeah.
It's called Call of the Wild, based on the great novel. Harrison Ford, nobody better to play somebody who bonds with this poor dog, Buck, who's been through the absolute mill, stolen from a rich home. And then it's a lovely kind of snow-set fable. 7 o'clock. It's tomorrow night, of course. It's on Film 4. Call of the Wild. Oh! Here's the trailer.
The Yukon is a dangerous place. You never know what's coming. I came up here because I didn't want to be around anyone. And then I met Buck. He was a dog like no other. He'd been spoiled.
Out!
he'd suffered. But he could not be broken.
I don't know where you came from, but I know where you are now. Welcome to the last place on the earth.
I should let him have a minute. Doesn't look like he's ever seen snow before.
It's a cute film, this one, of course, and my final recommendation for the weekend is, well, not exactly cute. It's an overlooked, I think, very gritty 1970s cop thriller called The 7-Ups. It refers to the fact that there was a special squad, almost vigilantes. Lots of vigilante films in the early 70s, Dirty Harry, Death Wish and stuff. A genuine squad that only went after criminals who they knew had done a crime and were due to be sentenced for 7 years and more, and they'd use all kind of shortcuts to get a conviction. Stars were always shy. I don't think the absolute top of his game pre-Jaws, but he'd been in French Connection, and of course this was directed by the man who produced both Bullet and The French Connection. I think his only film as a director, but he doesn't make a bad old fist of it. His name's Philip D'Antonio, I think. And it features, though, some great action sequences, great car chase, of course, because the man involved in it, Bill Hickman, also oversaw the car chases for French Connection and Bullet. He's a bit of a legend among stunt drivers, also a legend in Hollywood. He was in the car following James Dean on the night Dean died. He heard Dean's last breath, basically, escape his body. He also turned up very early doors in films. In The Joker is Wild, he plays the uncredited hoodlum who slashes Frank Sinatra's throat. And in Jailhouse Rock, he's the guard who gives Elvis Presley a whipping when Elvis's character was in prison. So he's kind of embedded into Hollywood mythology. He's also in a great film called Johnny Cool with Henry Silva, kind of overlooked neo-noir film from the early 60s. And he really is fantastic. The work he does on this film as a stunt coordinator and then overseeing the stunt driving is brilliant. It's called The 7-Ups. Great film. It's on Talking Pictures TV, a quarter to midnight Sunday night. You may not have seen it or even heard of it. See, if you enjoyed Bullet and The French Connection, this is the third leg of that stool, albeit slightly wobbly at times. Here's the trailer.
When organized crime becomes so clever that the police are forced to take desperate measures, it becomes hard to tell the cops from the killers.
Quick, Bobby! Bobby, get him!
Roy Scheider, in The French Connection, he helped to crack a $32 million dope ring. Now he's back, leading a new team of undercover super cops, even more ruthless than the mob they're gunning for. The 7-Ups. The dirty trick squad that even the regular police are afraid of.
Who shot the policeman in your car? I'm hurt bad. Who shot your car, Mike?
They bust you. They break you. They make you beg for a nice, safe stretch in prison, 7 years and up.
Who were those guys that shot my partner in the back seat of the car?
Ouch. Wow, it's a great... You don't need a PhD in the semiotics of cinema to realise that was the original 1970s trailer for that voiceover. And you're ending with a modern take, I think the fourth version, if memory serves, of A Star is Born, which is on Sunday night, I think. Is that right, Van?
Yeah, Sunday night, 10 o'clock on BBC Two. And yeah, this is, I think, the darkest and grittiest version anyone's likely to come out with on A Star is Born. This was originally intended to be directed by Clint Eastwood, with Beyonce in the female lead. And, of course, I think he gave it up to do Jersey Boys, I think, and passed it over because his mate, Bradley Cooper, as they were filming American Sniper, just casually mentioned that he fancied directing something. So Clint said, tell you what, why don't you take this?
I tell you what, why don't you take The Star is Born? See what you make of it.
That's how Hollywood works, apparently. And he then cast it with Lady Gaga, which turned out to be brilliant casting because she's actually phenomenal in it. Yeah. She kind of really proves herself as an actress, and of course went on to do the House of Gucci this past year, and is going to be in the Joker sequel like next year as well. But it's a really great, it's like really grounded and gritty take on the classic story of the faded star who meets, you know, the emerging rising star, takes her under his wing, and, you know, they are the star-crossed lovers at the center of this, you know, story of a rising and falling star simultaneously. Absolutely brilliant. Of course, deservedly won the Oscar for Best Original Song for The Shallows. And, I've got a clip for you. This is on 10 o'clock Sunday night on BBC Two, which is kind of the perfect time for it. See out the weekend with this one. You'll want a good cry before you go back to work for your final pre-Christmas week. And this is Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga just getting to know one another as Bradley Cooper sozzles his way through their conversation. It's a really great movie. I didn't expect it to be anywhere near as good as it is, but it's absolutely heartbreaking, genuinely profound. And Bradley Cooper really can direct, it turns out.
And as that happens, of course, I think each generation of Hollywood discovers this story, loves this story. It was originally Janet Gaynor and Frederick March, then it was James Mason and Judy Garland, then it was Chris Christopherson and Barbra Streisand. This time around, though, for our generation, Lady Gaga and, of course, Bradley Cooper. It's on 10 o'clock Sunday night on BBC Two. It's a cracker.
Can I ask you a personal question? Do you write songs or anything?
I don't sing my own songs.
Why?
I just don't feel comfortable.
Why wouldn't you feel comfortable?
Well, because, like, almost every single person that I've come in contact with in the music industry has told me that my nose is too big and that I won't make it.
Your nose is beautiful. Are you showing me your nose right now?
Yeah.
You don't have to show it to me. I've been looking at it all night.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I'm going to be thinking about your nose for a very long time.
You're full of
I'm not full of I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, you're full of
Touch your nose?
Oh, my gosh.
Let me just touch it for a second.
Oh, I feel like I'm dying.
Great soundtrack as well, of course. Very quickly, Van, tell us about your off-screen podcast. I presume this might be the last one before Crimbo, is that right?
We've got one more next week because we had to go out on a high, and I was not missing out on the chance to review the Whitney Houston movie, which is out next week. But you can hear us from 8 a.m. on podcast platforms today, where, of course, the big release this week is none other than the return of James Cameron with Avatar, The Way of Water. So you can hear that on podcast platforms off-screen with myself and Adam Ball.
Marvellous stuff. The mighty Van Connor, they're back with us next Friday, of course, on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. Right here, live till 5. It's me, Paul Ross, and the gang.